But we now have a new variant. With most of the country already under extreme measures, it's clear that we need to do more together. That means the government is once again instructing you to stay at home.
You're joking. Not another one?
Oh, yes!
It's crazy to think. And I wanted to start this podcast because obviously reading the article that I read for this, honestly, and I know it's simple to say and, we've all been through it, but just thinking about it in the whole element of everything. A year ago to this exact day, and yesterday for the people listening, or many, many days after, depending when you're listening, it was the last game with full fans in the stadium when Leicester City played Aston Villa and beat them. I think it was 4-0.
Yeah,
and it was the full stadium, the last game of full stadium. I think that was the last game. I remember watching that and going, I think that was the start of it where murmurings of it were going around that it was going to come into this country a bit more. The message I think was mainly, just hygiene levels, wash your hands, etc. And then a couple of days after that, obviously, Arsenal were due to play Manchester City at the Etihad Stadium. And that was the first game postponed due to the coronavirus because obviously the Olympiacos owner was due to have, not due to have, but he tested positive for coronavirus. And obviously
he was
Arsenal,
due to have coronavirus.
he was due to have, obviously he tested positive for coronavirus, and obviously Arsenal had been in a tie with Olympiacos in the Europa League, and he'd apparently been in the dressing room saying hello to the manager.
And there was that thing because he owns Nottingham Forest as well.
Yes,
and he'd been to Nottingham Forest, and then there was that whole thing. Michael Dawson had been to the Burnley Tottenham game after shaking hands with it.
And I think that was the point where when that game was postponed, and I think that was the first time that I went, I don't really think, because I remember I was in a hotel because I was just about to go on a cruise ship. Oh, boo! But it was the first time that I went, yeah, I'm not really sure football should really be, continuing with everything at the moment. It was starting to get, really, really real. Like everything was starting to slowly close down and things like that. And then a few days later, and I think this was the big turning point, not just in the football world, but in the world in general, was when Callum Hudson-Odoi of Chelsea, and probably more notably Mikel Arteta, the manager of Arsenal, both tested positive for coronavirus. And then the Premier League came out and said, enough's enough. The Premier League is postponed till, I think they put it back to the mid of April at that point. I think everyone was sort of like, yeah, it's going to be longer than that. And then from that moment, football stopped for 3 months. And I can't believe that was a year ago, And
put it into context, a couple of months before that in January, not even a couple of months, we were sat in a KFC about to go to an FA Cup match.
Yes.
And I was meant to go and work abroad and I got cancelled. And I just went, oh, well, I have to work here, not abroad. It wasn't a thing to worry about. It was just like, I can't go.
It wasn't.
In January, I'll let you continue to say, in January, did you believe that everything would close in March?
No, never.
No,
I'll be honest, I didn't even take it. It wasn't even in the back of my mind, this whole thing, really, if I'm being honest.
And then to think, a year later, we're still here. Not in a. I don't, and that's not. We're not blaming anyone for this, obviously, but it's crazy to think how many times have we said, "Well, I'll see you in May. It's fine. You can come over in May."
I know. No. and it's so difficult because this was 3 months with no football, and I mean, this is where I'll give it up. Fair play to the the TV organisations because they put old football games on, but it's not the same, is it? Because the outcomes, exactly what's going to happen. If you can, the goal scorers. If you really want to be nosy, you can go and check exactly what minutes, they score the goals on. Then you just sit for the rest of the game on your phone. So nothing beats, unpredictable live football. And it doesn't matter. I know in the summer, when the Premier League finishes and the leagues finish retrospectively, but there's always some form of football going on. There's a Copa America, there's a World Cup, there's a Euros. And if you stream the right streams, you get friendlies as well. You can. There's always football at any point in the year. There's always football on, and obviously, no football fan would ever turn around and go, "Oh, football should have continued." Absolutely not. But football's part of your life. It's your second love. It's I can't believe that 3 months football completely stopping. And to think that was a year ago, and like everything that's just gone on. I read that article, and even though we know it's happened, and obviously it's been the biggest talking point for the whole year, but when you think back to that time, it still feels quite surreal that we've been through this pandemic. Do you
remember that? Do you remember that first weekend of lockdown? That was when we initiated our football group chat, and we was like, "Oh, what are you up to?" on a Sunday morning, and I said, "I'm watching Simon Cox play in the A-League." That's how desperate I got. I got fair play to Australia. Kept the A-League going for a couple of weeks extra. Kept my Sunday mornings free, sitting in bed watching Simon Cox and Adam Lafondra. I felt do you know what? I might as well just had an episode of Premier League Years on. That's what it felt like.
You should just watch Reading from West Brom against 2008. But it's just crazy, and and I think the worst thing was, we were hearing. I don't know about you, Ollie, but we were hearing all these horror stories, about the Premier League, coming back, how they were going to bring it back, talking about matches abroad, the worst case scenario, cancelling the season. And I'm so glad we didn't, because you saw leagues like France and Holland cancelling their leagues. And then obviously most of the football world, brought their leagues back, and they're probably sitting there going, "Oh, shouldn't have done that so soon, shouldn't have rushed that decision." Which is why I was saying to people when they were going, "Look, just cancel the season." I'm like, no, we shouldn't just cancel the season. Just leave it, and until I'd say the end of June, if we hadn't done it by then yeah, void the season, cancel the season.
We're both wrong. We none of us said cancel the season, but we had our doubts about when it came back, didn't we?
I agree. Yeah, I was. So
I was. It was that for me. I don't know about you. For me, it was that Troy Deeney interview where he said, "Well, my son's vulnerable. What if I get COVID and pass it on to him?" Mm-hmm. One, I don't want to have to spend time away from my young son. But two, I don't want him getting ill. So there's just no win. And he's getting a lot of stick, and I don't think you can blame him for that. Look, all things touch wood have turned out well. It's hard to say it's turned out all right after you look at the worldwide COVID figures, but football-wise, seems to have gotten through the hurdles, I should say. Even, do you remember that first weekend the Bundesliga was back, the first league back in football?
Everyone was supporting teams. I picked Leipzig, and everyone was like,
"Oh." Got like 2 weeks in, everyone was like, "Okay, maybe not the Bundesliga for me." I managed to pick a team who couldn't bloody win, and they were doing a lot. But I remember that first week we were just going to sit down and watch sit down virtually and watch the football. I think like the whole of the UK, the whole of Europe was going to sit down, watch the Bundesliga because there's nothing else to do unless you want to watch the Belarusian Premier League, which for whatever reason carried on. But I remember that. I think I could get this wrong. I think it might have been Dusseldorf, but might be wrong. But Joe, you remember at first there was all these rumours that they'd refused to come out because they said that the restrictions weren't strong enough.
Yeah.
It was weird to me because they went out and trained, and then they sat in the dressing room like, "Nah, we're not doing it." And then they came out. I think they won. So maybe it was mind games.
It was.
COVID
it confused them. But it was. I remember everyone was like picking their teams, and then I remember that moment, when the Premier.
Can I just say, we're talking about picking their teams during COVID football. Whoever came up with the tweet that said everyone picking a Belarusian team, if you're aged between 16 and 30, you've all picked Dynamo Brest. It's so true as well.
Oh, but it was just crazy, and even Chris Wood got on the Premier League poster, the Premier League return poster. Chris Wood standing there like looking so proud. I was like, Ollie's gonna love that.
Didn't do any good this season.
But then, do you know what the biggest example is? Why it was such a good decision, not to cancel the Premier League? Because the biggest example of this is Aston Villa. Aston Villa, if they just cancelled the season, Aston Villa would be in the Championship right now, and they're sitting 8th in the Premier League.
Questionable should be in the Championship still, but swings them around.
So that's the thing. Like they're the biggest examples of it, and I think when you look at the football world, the way that we finished off the season, all these different leagues. I thought the Champions League and the Europa League format, the way they did them, I thought that was perfect. I thought that was handled
How fun was
so
that?
well.
How much fun was that?
That was brilliant. August Champions League football.
Every night you're just like, well, I could go and socially distance walk, or I could watch a really intense game of football. Well, I stayed in this long. Might as well stay a bit longer.
But it was just, and that's the whole thing. Like this whole, the way it was handled. I think bringing back the Premier League, I think was, and I think bringing back other leagues as well. I think we'll throw them in as well. I don't think you could ever. Obviously, I think everyone knew, at one point, players are going to be missing due to COVID. I think every team's had at least one or two players, missing at a point in the season due to having COVID. But that was part and parcel of, if we're going to come back, this is going to happen to your teams. It's basically like an injury. That's going to have to treat it like an injury. But when you look at it, I think it's been a success story, and I don't think anyone would turn around and say it was a bad decision to bring football back, because I think it's been an absolute success. And I think Boris came out and said, we're bringing back the football. Well, he didn't say the football, we're bringing back sport because it's a morale booster for people who weren't working. And when it first came back, I wasn't one of the ones working still. So for me, it's wake up in the day and go, 6 o'clock, football's back. Brilliant. And then from 6 o'clock to the end of the evening, and every single day there was football. And I thought that was it was for me as well, and I'm sure for a lot of people, it was a real morale boost to have the football back.
Well, I mean, especially during these second two lockdowns, this lockdown 2 and lockdown 3. Obviously, we didn't really have the football in lockdown 1. God knows, I don't know how we survived that. I'm so bored at the moment, and I have football, I have live sport all the time, live TV. I have Piers Morgan walking off live TV. Nothing more I could want, to be honest. But I don't know how I survived that first lockdown without. We must have had less than 10 days of no football since the 1st of January.
Yeah.
There's been so much on. If you just want to watch a game of football, there's something on, even if it's something you do not give a gnat's piss about. You can even watch bloody Hartlepool and Stockport. Just do it. Why not? When else are you going to get a chance to do it?
Do you remember in the first when we were halfway through the lockdown, we were really missing football, and we were all in the group chat going, "I'd even take an international break now." Give me San Marino versus Lithuania. But I mean, I just wanted to start a podcast because obviously everyone knows it. It's quite an obvious thing, but I feel like it's quite surreal to think we lived through that. It's almost because at the moment, everyone's just trying to live in the now, just to get through. Everyone's trying to live in the future to get to the end goal, aren't we? Really, this last year has been living in the future, trying to get there. You forget what we've actually been through, and that first lockdown, and just because it's a football podcast, just saying no football. No football. I love watching Olivier Giroud as much as the next person, but I really missed him. I missed Olivier Giroud. I missed Mason Mount. I missed Reece James. I missed my team, and we weren't even particularly having the most impressive season, but it just shows how much, it showed actually how much, football means to us. It really does, because, oh God, I missed it. And I'm so happy it's back.
Yeah. Do you know what? I think this so many times, like, that first lockdown seemed, well, it was almost a year. Well, it was a year ago now. Almost, not quite. We're almost a year ago. I don't know how we did it. I said it a minute ago. It's bizarre to me. Like, the days were slow, but the weeks were quick. Everything just seems really slow now, to be fair. But mental. Like, we're going to sit back in 15, 20 years, and like our kids growing up, they're going to be like, oh, watch the Premier League years like we did. Like, how many times did we watch those in our God knows how many years we've been watching football? And they're going to sit back and like they're going to have to watch all this COVID season stuff, all this like drama, and it's weird. Like, and then say, well, we lived through it, we got through it.
Football's never stopped, ever.
It makes me laugh. It's like you talk to your grandparents what they did in the war, and they're like, "Oh, well, I did this," and you got all these amazing stories. What did you do during the Great Pandemic? Well, I watched Premier League years and did football quizzes.
Well, the benefit of this pandemic, there's no benefits really, but we're doing this podcast, which is
So be grateful for COVID. I'm joking. No one trim that and save. I was gonna say Cove's Rangers. Be grateful for them in the Scottish League.
Oh, that's something we've got to talk about because we've got a big, chunk to talk about. We're going to talk about a big subject, but we've got to talk about Rangers, haven't we? Winning the Scottish League.
Exactly. I just love Cove Rangers. Oh, sorry, that Rangers. Sorry, I get confused with the big two Rangers in.
But we got to talk about Rangers, haven't we? We've got to talk about Rangers. What an achievement!
I'm thrilled for Scotty Arfield. Got another trophy under his belt. Not as big as his.
He wins the best championships, doesn't he?
Wow. He's won it all. He's won the big ones.
He has. Yeah, you can't deny that. Scottish League's that's a brilliant achievement. I think we'll talk about Gerard in a minute, but Rangers, for so many years, Celtic's been Celtic.
Even the thing is, though, I'm seeing all this thing saying like, "Oh, Celtic are in turmoil." Even if they weren't, like, they might not be champions at the moment, like just this moment, but Rangers haven't lost in the league this season.
It'd be brilliant.
You don't do that by accident, even in a pandemic. Okay, granted, we know what everyone's saying. It's the Scottish Premier League, but give it or Premiership. I was told on Twitter, someone had a go at me saying it's the Scottish Premiership. I was like, "Well, blimey, sorry." I didn't know there was.
How dare you?
I know. All I was trying to do is congratulate Scotty Arfield.
But for congratulations to Rangers, but we have to talk about them because that's a great achievement.
Do you want to hear a fun fact? Of course you do. I've got a great fun fact for you.
Go on.
They've won it before Celtic were handed the title. I say handed. They obviously Celtic deserved to win it last year, but how mad is that? They won it before Celtic got handed it early. That's mental. And if anyone's listening to this in 20 years and you haven't grasped that Celtic won it because of the pandemic, well, not because of the pandemic, they got handed it because of the pandemic. You've obviously not listened to the first 16 minutes. If you just tuned in for that 2 minutes, I don't know why I had to explain it. But yeah, and also it shows how well they're doing in Europe. Playing tonight, playing in a couple of hours. Actually, I don't know if you watched the Slavia Prague Leicester game. I think they got a tough game, Rangers. I think they're one of the toughest draws going.
I think the benefit that they've got now, and this is why I put them up there with the favourites for it. And I know it sounds silly, but they don't have to give a shit in the league anymore. I know they can theoretically go unbeaten, which would be an amazing achievement, but
they've done in their history. They've done that. So
yeah, would you rather go unbeaten or maybe potentially win the Europa League? Because they could go and beat anyone. We know it's cup competitions. You could beat anyone on any given day, and they play some good football. Rangers. They're not. It's not like they're just in the Scottish League. They've outplayed every team they've played this year. They've been brilliant. They could easily play some youngsters in the league, and because they want it, and then go and field their strongest team every week in the Europa League.
And I think out of all the games, like we got Man United and AC Milan, whoever Tottenham are playing, Dynamo Zagreb. But I think the pick of all the games in the Europa League tonight, or last night, depending on when you're listening, congratulations Rangers or Sparta. I think that's the one to watch. Rangers and Sparta Prague, both. That game, I thought Prague were brilliant against Leicester. Absolutely tore them apart. And obviously Rangers and Antwerp. Fuck me, what a tie. So I think I'm actually really buzzing for that. And I can't wait to watch it. Obviously, I think you agree. I think we want a Rangers win, but it's all about loving the Europa League.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what? I genuinely think the Europa League is getting some more street cred. I think people want it more. Yeah. Obviously, that whole getting into the Champions League thing, but
that's a big.
I think we're seeing the smaller. I say smaller, but the less established European teams develop more in it, and I think their football. I think football all over Europe. Maybe the top team standard is coming down a little bit, but equally the lower league, the lower rated teams, maybe their standards is coming up a bit. And I think it's amazing to see teams like Prague. And I know Leicester aren't in the Champions League, Europa League every year, but they're much better. They should be financially and squad-wise much better than Sparta.
They should be winning that tie quite easily.
Yeah, exactly. And they didn't. And Sparta Prague are something like, okay, I could get this wrong completely, like 4 years unbeaten at home as well. So it's not like they're not a pushover. I really enjoyed the Europa League last year. And I'm really enjoying it this year. And I can't wait for Olympiacos to knock out Arsenal again. I used to hate Olympiacos for knocking us out of the Europa League, but I bloody love them now. That was my favourite moment of last season. Aubameyang scoring that bicycle kick, everyone going absolutely nuts, and like going over the top celebrations. Let's be real, they were celebrating a game they should have won, and then they went down the other end and scored straight away. And I was like,
I couldn't believe
make
that.
it up.
I mean, it's absolutely brilliant, and yeah, I think it's a win. I think it's a fashionable competition, and I think Rangers very good to win it. And I think we're going to be talking about our English legacies in a minute, and obviously we talk about Rangers. You've got to touch on Steven Gerrard. What an achievement that is. Very fresh into the management game. When you see what's happened to Lampard, Gerrard's got to get all the credit in the world, doesn't he? What a job that is.
Yeah, it's not like he's. I think people thought, oh, he'll go to Rangers. He'll probably win a trophy or two. No, it got to. It's Rangers. But I don't know if he's had much say in the transfers, but they've invested so well. And not only that, I think he's in a position to play really attacking football, and he's gone for it. And I mean, I think he's defied everyone's expectations and gone and won the league unbelievably. And I think Rangers had progressed under him, but there was that talk at the beginning of the season. Well, he needs to win a trophy. He hasn't won a trophy yet. Still good finishing second and improving, and look, he's won a trophy. Might win another trophy. He might win a trophy they've never won. I mean, I know it's a long shot. You've got big teams, but God, they care about it more than the likes of Tottenham and Man United do. Of
course they do. And I know people will throw and go, "Oh, it's a Scottish league." That's a big deal. That's a big deal.
It's a league they've not won in 10 years.
Yeah, that's a big deal on his CV. He's gone to a. I know people slam it and say it's a Scottish league, but that's one of the most watched leagues in the world. I know people might laugh at that, but that is a watched league, and he's gone and won that.
On a Sunday, don't get me wrong, League One's great, but if you've got the choice between Celtic and Rangers or PSG and Marseille, what are you going to choose?
Yeah.
PSG and Marseille. No, joking. Celtic and Rangers, aren't you? Because I don't know, because it's just up the road. It's just a couple of miles north.
Mm.
Well, actually, saying that arguably. For us, PSG and Marseille's only a couple of miles south, but you know what I mean. I don't know. I don't know about the Scottish League. It's great, but obviously
it's a watched league. It's a watched league.
It's obviously lacking quality, but I think it's actually getting better. Like we're seeing more teams in cup finals. Maybe Celtic haven't been on pub, but I think. And how exciting! I think it's really exciting. The thought of for the first time in God knows how long, we're going to have two Scottish teams in the Champions League. Okay, granted, the qualifiers, brilliant. And that means another team in the Europa League then.
Yeah, so it's brilliant.
And that means more money, and that then means more exposure, more players. And that means the whole of the Scottish, all the divisions are going to slowly get better and better.
Mm-hmm.
Seeming at not only 10, 15 years ago, it was at its lowest point with all this corruption. And now it's. I don't mean to say it's thriving. It's still got a long way to go.
Yeah, of course.
But people say, "Oh, well, Celtic and Rangers dominate," but are they dominating? Aberdeen aren't far behind. Like they've just just got rid of Derek McInnes. Get someone new in. Someone's going to want to be a bit more experienced, and they're going to go, "Well, I could win a few trophies. I could build a legacy here." Mm. Oh God, a couple of really good wins, maybe a bit of luck. We'll be in the Europa League group stages. Bit like Dundalk. Like no one expected Dundalk to get to the bloody thing. Then they went and played Arsenal in the Europa League group stages.
To get into Europa League is an achievement.
Although all that money for getting in the group stages as well. And oh my God, we got drawn against some really easy teams. Oh look, we're in the knockout stage. Oh my God, we've just won loads of money. We're rich. We're going to sign Ibrahimovic to Motherwell.
Although I've got some bad news for Celtic because at 100 to 1 to be their next manager is Robbie Savage.
Oh, are you kidding?
I saw Jan Vennegar of Hesselink.
Oh, get him back. Try and get bloody Ian Crocker to say his name again. Well, I saw bloody John Barnes at 50 to 1 when it first happened. I thought, God, they don't want John Barnes back. Sure, it didn't work the first time.
Well, this is the question I'm going to ask you now, Ollie.
Is John Barnes the best manager?
Brilliant achievement for Gerard. Full credit to him. Deserves it all. Wonderful achievement for such a new manager in the game. What's next for him? And obviously, I've got my opinion on it. But obviously, you know, the murmurings, you know, the Germany job is conveniently going to be available. You know, not going perfectly at Liverpool for Jurgen Klopp. You know, Gerard's just won a trophy. I mean, the stories are adding up that it's going to go that way. But what do you think should he do?
What in the near future or the distant future?
Well, I mean, the talk at the moment, and if you're believing the papers and the rumours and, you know, everything lining up, it seems that Gerard's going to be the next manager of Liverpool at the end of the season. Well, I mean, do you think that's...
I got to be honest, I can't see it at the end of the season. I think, actually, I'll get onto the
Stars
bit about Klopp in a
aligning.
minute, but I think Klopp has got free reign this season. I don't think he'll be Germany manager. I don't think he's at the point of his career where he can do that. Yeah, he's been unbelievable. If he retired now, still one of my favourite managers to watch ever, Jurgen Klopp. But man, he's so young. And do you know what? I expect someone to go to Germany when they're in their like 50s, 60s. Do you know what I mean? Well, not Germany. I don't mean like everyone in their 50s, 60s. Well, better pack my bags.
Well, better pack my bags and go to Germany.
But that's what I mean. Like, he's not in like a scenario with Frank, whereas we've all said, actually, I've got something to say to you about Frank as well in a minute, whereas we all kind of said, well, it might do Frank some good to be England manager, because he needs that confidence, but Klopp don't need that confidence boost, even currently how it is. And I think Klopp's got free reign this season. I think, you know what, he could run down bloody Merseyside with his shorts ripped down, waggling his bits around. Oh, I can't believe I'm going down this route. I think the old police would be like, "Where is Jurgen Klopp? We'll let him off. We like Jurgen. Free reign of the city." Do you know what I mean? And I think, well, proof last night. I thought Liverpool played really well last night. I thought Leipzig were pretty bad, but I've heard. I was listening when obviously Germany had said that Joachim's going. They obviously went to Sky Germany on Sky Sports, and the guy from Sky Germany, the presenter or the reporter, said, "Oh, look, there's this theory. He's not actually as popular in Germany as he is maybe over in England, Jurgen Klopp, because there's this theory, and he's had it everywhere he's been so far, that he gets 5 years in, and he's so intense, he's so brutal that the team just falls apart because they're so knackered. Their star players get injured, and it's hard to tell if we're seeing that at Liverpool or they're just suffering the effects of the COVID schedule. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it helps. I think you're seeing a lot with teams who are very intense. There obviously are managers who are more intense than others, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I think you're seeing that in their injury lists.
No, but you can't be finishing eighth.
No, I know.
I think that's a disaster. I'm not saying any Liverpool fan coming out and saying, you know, Klopp out is an idiot. I'm sorry, I don't want to insult anyone, but you're an idiot if you're Klopp out.
But there are. I can't believe there are. Okay, get past the people who don't know football, but then there are like proper Liverpool fans, and I'm sure season ticket holders who, okay, very few who are saying it.
Yeah, but I mean, it's
weird
still
to me.
It's still not deflecting away. You know, it's still a disaster season, and you could argue if he was at another club, if he was at Chelsea and was having this season, he'd be gone, despite what he's done. You can't disagree with that, you know.
But again, we would be sitting here if that had happened saying, was that the right decision?
Well, of course we would. I didn't agree with Mourinho being sacked the year after he won the Premier League. I didn't agree with Ranieri getting sacked the year after he won it with Leicester. But, yeah, I mean, personally for me, I think Gerard, we all know the story, you know, Klopp's going to go eventually and Gerard is going to be that next man. I think
Klopp is going to be Germany manager one day. It's bound to be. Like, he has the ability to. I think he's just too young for that Germany position, and I think we're going to feel stupid next year if Liverpool go and dominate the league again, aren't we? But there is this theory that it happened at Mainz, happened at Dortmund, where they just fell apart after they reached their goal. Like Mainz finished 7th in the league. The next season, well, okay, arguably there was that thing that Dortmund really wanted Klopp, so his mind was taken. But then Dortmund win the league. Next season they drop off massively. They drop off humongously. Like, Jurgen Klopp didn't leave Dortmund in a good light. I mean, he didn't leave bad light. He would always be loved by Dortmund. But he didn't leave, like, winning everything. He didn't leave on the Champions League final. And then look at it now. Like, do you know what? I watch Liverpool play at home and I expect the away team to win now.
I know. I knew. I thought Fulham. I said at the beginning of that game, I was like, Fulham are going to win this.
Yeah, I obviously we want Fulham to lose, Burnley fans, and I was just sitting there with my dad the whole time, like we were like worried that Liverpool weren't going to win. Like normally, it's just like cool, 3 points against Fulham, like easy, like no 3 points for Fulham. Sorry, but I was saying like it's a bit pointless us beating Liverpool if everyone else is going to bloody beat.
Oh no,
them around.
you were the first. You were the first. You were the first.
Well, that's great, but when we're bloody playing Huddersfield next season. Oh, this is like the great. Like, I'm so glad at this point I'm not a Liverpool fan. Just for the thought, I hate when it happened with Dutch a couple of years ago. Obviously, it happened with bloody. It helps us with Chelsea managers left, right, and centre. When people, especially like likes of like Mourinho, think of Mourinho at the time, not Mourinho now, but Mourinho, Klopp, and then for my sake, Dutch, when like a club legend who's brought so much to the club is then being touted to leave. It's heartbreaking because you're like,
of course it is.
I've wanted to defend. You know, we could lose every game of the season, and I still think Deitch is the right man for the job. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's hard. I found it hard, and it happens with players as well. The day Sam Vokes left, I probably cried. I think I probably had a tear in my eye because I just think, well, he's always our plan B. What's next?
Yeah,
and like, if Klopp, I worry. Okay, say on the off. Let's just pretend Gerard doesn't exist. I know it's hard to do. I would. Who does Liverpool go to? Like, who can put that intensity into that team? Who need it? Like we're seeing it now. Like they don't have. They have the quality and the players of Man City, but Man City, I don't know how to describe it, but they don't have to be in first gear all the time. But I think Liverpool do, don't they?
That's a bit. But
Not first gear.
You were
Sorry,
saying
fifth gear.
you say forget Gerrard exists, and I think that's so true because if I'm being honest,
I'm just saying, yeah.
I think the reason why we're having this conversation about could Klopp go, I don't think we'd be having that at all. But it's because Gerard's done what he's done. Gerard,
you're not.
Yeah, I do.
So
I think the
I
only
feel really bad on the off chance Gerard's listening or is any of his family. We love Gerard. He does exist.
I think the only reason Klopp's being talked about going, and I think people are trying, is because of what Gerard's done. I think it's obvious. Gerard is going to be the next Liverpool manager. I think every Liverpool fan, accepts that. I think everyone.
So do you think there's no chance? So let's go with that. What you said a minute ago. Klopp gets sacked, or Klopp leaves. I can't ever see Klopp getting sacked.
He won't get sacked.
Klopp leaves mutually. There's a mutual agreement. He goes. Rangers. So at the end of the season, yeah, Rangers have won it. Let's say Liverpool still haven't decided on a manager. They've got to the Champions League knockout stages. What do you do?
Well, I
don't know if he does go.
Well, it depends what he wants, isn't it? I mean, I just think it's so. I mean, personally, I think the right scenario is Klopp stays at Liverpool, rightfully so. Hasn't lost. I think even if he falls out the Champions League place, I think he's earned every right to stay there. And obviously, I want Gerard to stay at Rangers a bit more, just to keep winning it. Not just win it and go right. You've achieved it. You're coming now to Liverpool. Stay at Liverpool. Stay at Rangers a little bit more. Nurture again. Go and win it again. The year after, and then the year after that. Again, maybe push in the Europa League. Maybe Rangers aren't going to win the Champions League, but there's no reason why they can't. You get further into the quarterfinals. No reason why they can't do that. We've seen worse teams get further. Applewell. Do you know what I mean? And
yeah,
I'd like Gerard, to stay a bit longer for his sake, because I love Gerard. I do. He's the most respected footballer out of anyone's fan base. No matter who you support, you love Steven Gerrard. That's just a known fact. He's what a footballer, and he's starting to show the same. I don't know what the word is, but the same, grace and the same awe about him as a manager now. He's starting to. Sean said
it the other week. Like, it's amazing that he managed to bring that passion to Rangers, like the same passion. Because it must be difficult. It must have been really difficult. Because all you've known is Liverpool. Even your first coaching job's in the youth academy, and all of a sudden, well, I've never been to this stadium before. Oh, oh, I expect to see Kenny Dalglish every day. What's going on? It
And
must have been.
I don't want
Not
Gerard to
full.
go. I don't
No,
want Gerard to
I
go.
don't.
And I think it'd be best I think for all parties, I've seen it with Lampard, it was too soon for Lampard. It was too soon. You see it. I think it's, even though what he's done at Rangers is terrific, it's too soon for him to go into Liverpool, especially a Liverpool team under pressure. That's even worse. Do you know what I mean? I think Klopp should stay, I think Gerard should stay, and I think that's the best case scenario for all involved. But
I'm really excited to see Scott Arfield in a Liverpool shirt.
But Gerard, amazing guy, and obviously left a legacy, which is what we're going to talk about now. We're going to talk about just briefly as well to end this another wonderful podcast off. The legacies of what has created, English football as it is today. And I've got the first name here, Ollie. I'm going to start because I know you've got a few. I've got 3 people, and when we talk about legacies, it's not necessarily who's the usual suspects are Sir Alex, Wenger. Let's not be boring. Let's find people who have made it a different.
Well done, Adam Lafondra.
No, Simon Cox. But the one I think made English football, I think a brand. I think made English football exciting. The legacy that he left. My top of the list is Brian Clough, and I've got his achievements here. Won the first division with Derby, won it with Nottingham Forest, won back-to-back European Cups with Nottingham Forest, 16 trophies in his career, manager of the year for many times, voted by ESPN 5 years ago as the 3rd greatest manager of all time. I think you could speak to any football fan in the world, and no one would have a bad word to say about Brian Clough. I mean, an absolute legend of the game. And I think when you look at the legacy of I think he was the first person I think actually brought maybe a bit of style to football, because when you see Sunday League and that kind of thing, I think that's what football was for years and years and years. It was just 22 men on the pitch kicking the ball, trying to get the ball into the back of the net. There wasn't really a necessarily, and I know it sounds really bad, but there wasn't necessarily a style of play to a game. I think he was the first manager that brought a style of football where people were like, that's the Clough style. That's not football, that's Clough. So he's the top of my list by a million miles.
Oh, I couldn't agree more.
I think he's brilliant.
And not only that, unfortunately we never got the chance to really embrace it in our lives. But even we're 20, 30 years off, no, maybe not that many, 10, 15 years off his peak managerial experience to our birth, or like our understanding of football. Like there was no way we would have seen his best because we weren't born, but we know all about it. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like I'm sure in 15 years, 20 years time, our kids are going to know all about Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. It's that same thing, and Sir Alex as well. Like you said it, like there probably is no better manager than Sir Alex Ferguson.
No, best manager of all time.
And do you know what? It's weird to me. Like, it's so used to hearing his name so often in our whole lives. Like, I don't know if you remember the day he left, Sir Alex, but and Moisey took over. Like, that was so weird. Like, not all we'd known. It's all, even like our older siblings and all that. All they knew was Sir Alex. It's so strange. And all we knew, well, it might be a bit different for you. Well, no, it isn't, because you're only a couple of years older than me. But the same with Arsene Wenger. All we knew was Wenger, and then it's all changed.
Did you always think Arsene Wenger was manager of Arsenal because he was called Arsene?
Yeah, if you didn't think that, I know for a fact you're not British. But everyone can pull a fucking Brian Clough quote out of their head. Do you know what I mean? Everyone knows one. Everyone's at least seen a film about Brian Clough, and I reckon I'm going to say 65% of football fans have read one of Brian Clough's autobiographies. Do you know what? There was, like, he had his own style of football, but we wouldn't have had any style of. There's so many different styles in the Premier League and English football at the moment, and they all come from Brian Clough. Really, they're all a variation. I mean, if you ask, I hope in 15 years' time you ask my son or daughter who one of the most influential people is in football ever, ask me, ask my dad, ask my granddad, they'll all say Brian Clough. I'm sure. They'll all be in the top 10, top 5, top 4, top 3.
I think what makes him better is the fact that, not disregarding anything that Sir Alex did, Arsene Wenger did, Mourinho did, Guardiola's done, Klopp's done, whatever our manager's going to do in the future. There was a lot less money back in the game back when he was there.
A lot more competition as well.
Absolutely. And to win, win a first division with Derby, and then to win it with Nottingham Forest, and then to go one better and go and win back-to-back in Europe.
There's a reason every time there's a Derby or East Midlands Derby, they play for a trophy named after him. There's a reason they do that. It's not just for a bit of fun. Burnley don't just have the Michael Keane Trophy when we play Blackburn. Do you know what I mean? There's a reason. Do you know what I mean? They don't have the Peter Schmeichel Trophy when Man City and Man United play, and he's a bloody legend all over the park.
Oh, absolutely.
But this is how much of a legend he was. I'm sure in Brazil they'll play for a in Argentina they'll play for a Maradona Trophy. In Brazil they'll play for a Pele Trophy. Our Pele, our Maradona, Brian Clough, and great footballer. Even but when he's known for managing, that's the crazy thing. And do you know what's weird to me? We'll always remember. We're just talking to Gerard. We're talking about Gerard footballing in 30, 40 years' time, right? How do you think we'll remember Gerard? Great footballer or great manager?
Great footballer.
I'm going to go with great manager. Obviously, we'll remember him as a great footballer, but it's kind of how we go back now, when Kenny Dalglish was unfortunately managing Blackburn or whatever. You'd ask, was Kenny, to your dad, your mum, your whoever who watched football, was Kenny Dalglish really that good? And they'll go, yeah, he was pretty bloody good. Do you know what I mean? It's that kind of.
I kind of.
We know him as a manager, but obviously our parents are elders, if you will. They know him as a footballer, and that's just football. That's just your football knowledge, isn't it? That's just how it will always go. It's mad. I couldn't think of a better choice, David. Great choice.
Thank you. I thought it was a really good one. What about you? Have you got one? I've got 2 others, but who have you got?
I'm gonna go. Do you know what? I'm gonna do the opposite to you. I'm gonna start at number 3. You might raise some eyes. You might not. You might agree. But I've actually gone for Pep Guardiola. And you might think that because I've been so critical of Pep Guardiola over the years. But equally, we're talking English football, right? We're talking people who've made inspirations in English football. We can forget about City's time in Europe, happily. But do you know what I've not seen? I don't think I've ever seen a better Premier League team than Manchester City and the Centurions. And you know what? You might love or hate Guardiola's style of football. I hate it. When it's 100% right, it's amazing to watch. You can't deny that at all.
I agree.
But who does everyone want to play like? All the way down to the bottom of the football pyramid. Everyone in England wants to play the Guardiola football. They might not admit it, but you know for a fact they're passing it out from the back. You know for a fact your midfielder is looking to make a pass through the middle.
Well, even grassroots.
That's what I mean. It's mental. Someone has come here and just changed English football, probably for the next 15 years, 20 years. And we're seeing it again. They're bloody brilliant again. Oh, we lost one game to United. Maybe they shouldn't have lost. They missed some chances. But they're going to retaliate with that and play really well. Win 5-2. He's making rubbish players look good. Though they don't have many rubbish players, but the ones they do, they still look good. John Stones, I'm sorry, John, but put you in an England shirt, you're not going to do it for us. Put you next to Ruben Diaz, you're going to look like a king.
Yeah.
He's scoring goals. John Stones is scoring goals.
No one can argue what Guardiola's achieved. And I was one of these people that said at the start of the season, I was like, he's finished. I don't think he'll win anything this year. And I've turned out to be wrong. But it's not that you don't appreciate Guardiola, but I wouldn't want to watch it every week.
No, I get, and I think that's what gives him that status of he's definitely a Premier. I'm obviously trying not to go on to your picks as well, so we're trying to keep it fresh. This doesn't always. The thing I always try and say is we're trying to do try and say people that people wouldn't think to say rather than. And I think the fact probably me and probably so many hundreds of thousands of people said, "Well, the City aren't going to win anything. They look rubbish." And the fact he can change it up, and I mean, yeah, they've got a lot of money, but who doesn't at the moment? They don't spend it willy nilly either. Like they spend it right. They spend it willy right, not willy nilly.
You
I can't
can't
believe I
argue.
just said willy right.
You can't argue Guardiola's signings have been, he's had the odd dud one, Claudio Bravo, but I still think that was a
Benjamin
year
Mendy.
gap. I think maybe he knew what Edison was like and went, just need to see a year of him. Give me a year, I'll have this clowning goal. Oh yeah, Edison's quite good. Yeah, we'll go and get him. I still think Claudio Bravo was. So yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, you can't argue. When you look at English football, the legacy, how it's changed to what it is now.
Everyone wants.
You can't argue.
They might not admit it. It's because he's brought in that Barcelona style that he made famous. Like he made, how you managed to get a style of football better than total football is bizarre to me. And he managed to do that, and everyone was like, "Well," and how many times? I don't know if you ever went through this, but if you're in the Championship, League 1 or 2. And they go to Sky Sports and report on your game, at least once in your lifetime, they would go, "Whoa, I feel like I'm watching Barcelona, not Burnley." Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It will happen once every now and then. You're like, because everyone wants to be like them. It used to be Brazil, but now everyone says Barcelona. And then, do you know what? Right. I bet in Spain or what? Well, maybe not Spain. In Portugal, God, they're playing like Manchester City. Imagine saying that to a City fan 15 years ago. But yeah, I think we're talking about not trying to put your personal views aside on him, which I've had to do a lot here. I just think he has changed English football for the future. If we like it or not, if you love his football or not, like no one's like going, "Oh, I really, really want to play Steve Bruce football." Oh, fucking meat pie tacker, love it. So yeah, I've never known a manager to come and change things like that in our lifetime. Anyway.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Right, I'll go with my number 3 then, and I'll leave my number 2 for a minute. My number 3, and you said that people will raise their eyebrows at your decision. People will really raise their eyebrows at my decision, and I don't want to go for the same. I don't want to go for the obvious answers because that's boring. I've gone for this guy, and the reason I've gone for this guy is because he changed football for everybody and for footballers who go, "Oh, I've not made it. I'm not going to make it. Oh, I might as well give up now. I'll just happily sit around waiting," and that kind of thing. I think he gave everyone, and when you think of what he's gone on to do, not even, the amount of goals he scored and not even the amount of, the respect that he's got now, the trophy he won. He's given everyone down in non-league football who may be sitting there now, not even youngsters anymore, people in their 25, 26 in non-league football. He's given everyone the chance to go, that could happen to me. I've just got to work hard, get myself noticed, and I could be that person. For the changing the mental attitude of players and giving everyone a dream again, and it doesn't matter how old you are, I've gone for Jamie Vardy. And I think because...
do you know what you said, raise eyebrows, but I think that's such a good pick as well.
It's because, when you look at his journey, he went up to Fleetwood, got released from Fleetwood, went to Halifax, and then he got, he got called, got 1 million to the Premier League. And everyone, that tweet, that guy must be, the most laughed about guy in the world going, 1 million for Jamie Vardy, what a rip-off. And I think Jamie Vardy tweets every year, doesn't he? He tweets every year. But you hear about youngsters going, "Oh, when you're young, you still got that hope because you're young, you've got a long career." I think he gave that hope to every single footballer out there. Even when you're like 26, 27, there's still that hope, It unlikely, but there's hope that I can get up to that level, And to get up there, to score over... Okay, taking the Premier League aside, winning the Premier League that year and being, probably the reason why they won it, that drive, that consistency, because Leicester, they had Kante that year, who was brilliant, they had Mahrez that year, but Leicester play the Vardy style, which is why I worry for Leicester when Vardy eventually does, go. Will Leicester have that same identity without, finding the Vardy replacements? I think harder than Man City finding the Aguero replacement because of the way that they played to Jamie Vardy. But forgetting the Premier League, over 100 Premier League goals for someone who was in the league since he was 27, 28.
Yeah, it's been in it 6 years. It takes players. It took Peter Crouch how many? No, and that's anyone getting to 100 goals, Premier League goals, is unbelievable. But doing it in that time frame, ridiculous.
Unbelievable. And up there every year. And still probably one of the most underrated players in the Premier League at the moment because he's so. I'd personally put him in my top 20 players in the Premier League. I really would. Maybe not anymore now. Last season, definitely in the top 10. But maybe not top 10 anymore because I think, the legs, you could see the legs are starting to go a little bit, the goals are not drying up.
I hope obviously his choice. I hope he never leaves football though.
No, I do.
Did you ever watch that documentary where it was like he was playing in non-league and he had to leave it was an evening game, he had to leave at half time because he had a juvenile tag on, an ankle tag, I don't know what they're called. And he just genuinely thought that before he'd even turned 18, his life in this football career was over because of his past as a kid. And you know what? He got into professional football. He grew up, and now he's doing amazing things. I don't think he would ever go back to that. He took the time to change himself and become this amazing person, amazing player. And I find it weird that if you're an up and coming young striker, a kid, and your inspiration isn't Jamie Vardy, at least one of them, you're right. If I don't mean to say if Jamie Vardy can do it, anyone can do it, but he no offence to him, he went from nobody to being the most sought after man in England in 2016 and 2014. Yeah. Everyone, a bit like how people were getting behind Grealish and Maddison a couple of years, last year. It was Vardy. If you didn't live football and lived in England, it was Vardy season, wasn't it? These 2010s events, everyone wanted Vardy. Oh, we're not scoring. Why are we not playing Vardy? Oh, they were singing Vardy's on fire for a reason, not because he was on fire, literally, but because he was bloody brilliant. I don't think I'll ever forget that goal against Man United where Martin Tyler was like, hold the front page, hold the back page. I don't think anyone will ever forget that. I don't think in 20 years' time they'll be showing that as one of the great Premier League moments because it was amazing. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, in terms of a legacy, the legacy he left is you're never too old to get to the top. Keep working and you'll get there.
Yeah. Best example of it. I was going to say, Dave, you're Dave. I should have thrown a random name then. Tim from playing for Basingstoke's second biggest team. I know you're 31, mate, but I don't know. West Brom are calling. Sam Allardyce will give you a ring. Don't you worry. England's calling your name, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Jamie Vardy for me at number 3.
Right. So my number 2. It's hard not to put him number 1, but I'll tell you why I didn't. Do you know what? In my lifetime, there has not been a more not important as he was never the best player, but not a more important player for my country. It was always oh, it's fine. This guy's on the pitch. He'll save us. He always did. We could be in the worst moments of our lives as an England team, and he'll just save us. And everyone will always remember the big moment that qualified us, that helped us qualify at Old Trafford. Oh, just against Greece. He was just, I don't think if you had an England shirt, 9 out of 10 times it would have this player's name on the back when you was a kid in the early 2000s.
Exactly what you were saying.
Every time I thought of England, you thought of old David, Bexy, Beckham. Everyone. It was crazy because he was a very, very, very good footballer, but arguably didn't reach the heights he should have. He won everything he could have, but I think, especially when him and Owen went to Madrid, everyone expected him to do more. Do you know what I mean? He was there for a while, but he was more of a backup kind of player. He wasn't a first teamer, and I think obviously injuries ruined it a bit for Owen out there. And it was really mad, because we don't really think of English players playing in Spain for Barcelona and Madrid, do we? No. But having our captain, national hero, how it's not Sir David Beckham at the moment, I do not know, because I don't know one person who disliked him, and
No.
even now, I just don't. There's not anything to dislike about him. I just love him. I love David Beckham. I'm really that. I remember. I'll never forget his last game for PSG, where they had this huge. He played about a handful of games for PSG, and they gave him this huge ovation when he left with his final game
I
in
remember.
a country that he didn't play for that country. He hardly played for PSG, but he was so respected as a legend all around the world.
Well, shirt sales
And
went over the roof, didn't they?
yeah, and I just think he had this. We always talk about auras on this podcast. I don't know why. I don't know how, but he had this aura. I can't explain it. Like you're just kind of. I think if I ever saw Beckham in person, I'd be a bit shell shocked. Like
Yeah.
this was someone he didn't even play for Burnley. God, what a bloody story that would have been, no. And he's what every. You tell me when you was a kid playing football in the school playground, if you had a free kick, you'd always pretend to be David Beckham, wouldn't you?
Yeah, of course you would. Even now. You know,
I'm
like
sad
curling the
that
top corner.
yeah, I'm sad that my kid. I keep saying my kids. I might not end up having bloody kids. My theoretical kids. They're not gonna. This is why I put him second because he just doesn't get the mention he deserves. I don't think. We couldn't talk about England in the 2000s without talking about Bex. And when Steve McLaren decided not to call him up, there was uproar. There was huge uproar. When he got taken off for the first time in like years, when he got put on the bench for the first time, everyone was like, "That's Mr. England. What are you doing?" It still makes me sad.
I remember being in school, in primary school, and it was when David Beckham came out and stripped himself of the captaincy, saying, "I'm no longer a big captain." I was like, "No, no."
People. Okay, I'm putting it into context, right? When I was very young, my family went to Japan. All around Disney World in Japan, in Tokyo, everyone went, "Oh, are you from England?" We're like, "Yeah, we are." And they were like, "Oh, we love David Beckham." Out of all the people, they could have said the Queen. They could have said, I don't know, James Bond, Daniel Craig, anyone. They could have said anyone. They said David Beckham.
But it's not just his personality, but it's his playing style. You know, I've never known a person be referenced so much in a playing style. You know, whip it like Beckham. You know, free kick.
Bend it like Beckham, for goodness sake.
Bend
How
it
can I
like
even
Beckham.
forget that?
You know, Beckham-esque free kick, the curl on it. You know, that halfway goal. Oh, he's done a David Beckham. You know, do you know what I mean? Like, in terms of, as you said, much better footballers. And you can even argue, you know, he wouldn't be up there as one of the best ever footballers ever. But for his playing style, what he did, you know, no one's left a better legacy in terms of the playing styles. You know, as we said, whipped it in like Beckham. That was Beckham-esque. You know, when someone shoots from the halfway line, he's done it like Beckham. Do you know what I mean?
There's also, I know it sounds weird, like, because obviously football is very rich, especially in the modern day. But there's a reason he's rich and he's a celebrity. There's a reason he's a celebrity because he's just so passionate. Like, I think it's quite easy to think he doesn't like he isn't so passionate about football, but he owns a club for a reason. Like, he owns a club in MLS for a reason, probably because it's one of the easier places to own a club. But do you know what I mean? Like, he went to the MLS because he wanted to play. Like, he didn't go to the MLS for the money. He played for years, didn't he? He was there for quite a good couple of years.
Yeah, a long time.
It's mental. He won trophies and everything. So this guy, and then he played in it for AC Milan at like 36. What?
Brilliant
Who does
guy.
that? Only one
Brilliant
person
guy.
who could do that. I think. Do you know what? I think he could go and sit in the Etihad with a Man United scarf, a Man United shirt, and people come up to him and take photos with him still.
Yeah, I agree. Do you know what I love as well?
It was never David Beckham. Oh yeah, go on.
You remember when his son was playing for his college team, and like in a back stadium somewhere, like on an old school pitch, and he was there. He was there. I couldn't believe it.
Mental,
you know,
isn't it?
A guy so passionate about football. When I watched, he put out a documentary years ago, and it's one of my favourite things to watch. Just watching him, like, as you said, aura again. But you know, you sit there, and when you see David Beckham on the telly, you know, even talking, you're like, I could sit here for hours and just watch and listen to you. You might not be saying anything major or anything impressive, but when you talk about legacy, you know, you sit still and you listen when you see Beckham.
And we talk about Jamie Vardy in that moment where he's running and Martin Tyler's going nuts and all that, but that moment against it's not even in the scheme of things, it was a tournament we should have qualified for, but we hadn't at that point on the last game, and we needed all the luck in the world. But with Beckham, it wasn't luck; he just knew what he needed to do to put us through. But I mean, we must how young? What I must have been 5, 6 at that point. And I remember it like it was yesterday. Like I'll never forget bald Beckham with the St George's Cross shirt on, the one stripe, like running away and looked like it. A bit like it reminded me so much. Do you remember when Company scored against Man United and he looked possessed?
Yeah,
that's what it reminded me of.
You knew that was
that's
going
the other way around. That's what the Company goal reminded me of. It's so easy for players now to come out and say, "Oh God, I love playing for my country." But do you know what? He could score a screamer against Moldova, Andorra, and he would rip his shirt off and go and jump into the crowd. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
People never say, "Oh, Beckham's a Man United guy." It was always Beckham's an England guy.
Couldn't agree more.
And it's hard to obviously replace players in international football, but we've not captured that passion for England yet. It's not. It's
right.
It's declined every year since. Maybe it's going up a bit at the moment in the last 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, whatever. But man, if I ever missed an England player, it was David Beckham.
I agree.
God, I feel like I just emptied my heart out to you, David.
Well, this is why. And my number 2, I did have Beckham originally as number 2 on my list, but I know how much you love David Beckham, so I didn't put him in there because I knew you'd talk about him.
You know what? Actually, I've got a really funny story about David Beckham. I forgot quickly. I'll just quickly say. You obviously knew my ex-girlfriend. The first time I went to her house, this would be really weird if she's listening to this. I haven't spoken to her that's how long. But first thing I saw in her house, they had a signed David Beckham shirt, and I swear to God, I probably actually considered stealing it. I couldn't believe it. They just had a sign. It was just laying around as well.
Incredible.
I would pray to this every morning. I think I did. I got to all before and just started bowing to him.
Thank you, dear Beckham. Dear Lord Beckham. Should be Sir Beckham, really, shouldn't it? Well, my number 2.
King. Do you know what? With all this with the royal family, let's get David. He'll sort it. Not you. Definitely not you.
I wouldn't know.
Well, we got a title then. King Dave.
King Dave. My number 2, and I've gone for this guy because I was going to go Beckham, but I knew you'd say Beckham. My number 2, and the reason I've gone for this guy is because I think he made the Premier League. Again, I think when you look at English football, I think there's people that have left better legacies, have been better players in their time in the Premier League. But this guy, when we talk about English football as it is, he made English football, I think, the best in the world. I think when this guy was at his best, I think the whole world suddenly went, the Premier League's the best. This guy's there, and made it watchable, made it fashionable. I mean, until he was there, I don't think the Premier League had ever seen a better player ever. And I've gone Cristiano Ronaldo, and I think, because he played for Man United, you didn't want him to do well, but he was just one guy. I don't think there's ever been a football fan in the world that has ever sat and went, God, bloody Ronaldo. I think everyone's just gone, yeah, fair play. What a goal. What a guy. That Portsmouth free kick, I know exactly. That's one moment you talk about, your Jamie Vardy, your Beckham moment. That moment when he put it in the top corner, I'll always remember where I was. And I was around my dad's house watching the game. And my dad said to me when he put the free kick down, he was like, this is going right in the top corner and David James is going to have no chance. What did he do? Top corner, David James just watched it. Just the goals, the goals. And, again, left the Premier League probably before he became his world class self. Had his better years at Madrid. But I think he left the Premier League in a much better state because everyone was watching the Premier League then because of him. Everyone was like, English football, wow, this guy's there. This guy was there. It's got to be good. There's got to be more Ronaldos. And I think when we look at, the players in there, when Bale was at his best, everyone was like, cool, he could get to a Ronaldo level. Could Hazard get to a Ronaldo level? Could Salah get to a Ronaldo? Mane, Mahrez, all these players, can they get to Ronaldo level? There won't be a player that will get to Ronaldo's level because he's the one that they all talk about. You know, no one's ever going to get a legacy as good as him for being, in his time there, probably the greatest player the Premier League's ever seen. Obviously, there's greater players in Premier League history because of what they've done and what they've achieved. But in terms of ability, there's not going to be anyone better.
No, I agree. And, well, look, how many years ago was that Portsmouth thing? 15 years ago?
2008.
14 years ago. Who's all the attention on when Porto played Juventus in the Champions League the other night? Ronaldo. Like, I find it mad that... Imagine saying to us then, when that goal had gone in, right, that in 2021, during a pandemic, Cristiano Ronaldo is unbelievably still relevant.
Mm.
And he's not even just relevant. He's still getting in the top 3 and the best players in the world.
Exactly. The guy was just a machine.
And I just... Do you think anyone will rise to these... I mean, we've got to talk about it. The rise to the Messi, Ronaldo numbers. I don't mean so much because obviously I think we've had players of their quality in the past, maybe better. But do you think their numbers will ever be matched?
No. I think Haaland and Mbappe are the next two. I do. I think they're the next two. And I think when you look at the levels Haaland's scoring at and Mbappe, you know, they'll be right up there. But I don't think they'll create as big a legacy as Messi and Ronaldo because they were the first to do it. And it's always that thing, you know, when you're talking about, you know, in anything in life, you know, you've got people like Salah who are doing absolute madness in the Premier League. You know, in the years he's been there, you know, we talked about Jamie Vardy getting to 100 goals quickly. You know, Salah's doing that, is up in the 70 goals in the Premier League, and he's only been there half the time Vardy's been there. You know, and a winger. You know, but no one's going to say Salah's the best because it's always going to be, you know, Ronaldo, that kind of thing. It's that legacy. You know, when you've made it that big, it's impossible for people to get. It's like Maradona and Pele. You know, they're always going to be looked at as the world's best because of what they did. They did it first. Ronaldo and Messi, very close, but you'll still get football fans going, yeah, you're never going to be Maradona level. Do you know what I mean? It's because they're the first to do that. You know, Ronaldo was the first person to, you know, create that legacy of this is a world, not just a really good player. This is a world class player. He won. It's just we know like how favoritism, you know, the Europe and the UEFA are for picking the World Player of the Year. We saw that with Van Dijk. Ronaldo won it at Man United. You know, he won it in a Premier League team. That's how good he was. That's the legacy. You know, Van Dijk robbed. You know, years and years, people, you know, up the top level in the Premier League, you know, robbed. Don't even get. You know, Salah. That year he scored 40 goals. Surely should have been considered for Ballon d'Or. Was he? No, because he played for a Premier League team. Ronaldo won it at a Premier League team. It says it all, doesn't it?
Unbelievable. Like, do you know what? There's obviously these people who choose between Messi and Ronaldo, but even if you are a Barcelona fan, you can't ever sit there and say Ronaldo isn't one of the best players ever. I can't ever imagine someone just scoring goals like he did in a whole career. Not even like in stages. It just kind of never dried up. And even when it dried up, oh, Ronaldo's had a bad season. Oh, he's only scored 35 goals. Oh, okay. Well, that's more than we've scored all bloody season at the moment. So,
yeah, in terms of legacy, making making people sit up and go, English football's good. We're going to watch English football. You know, arguably not a better. Well, never had a world class player since Ronaldo. So that's my way for that. He's number 2 for me.
I think we should throw in some honourable mentions before I go for the last pick. Thierry Henry, definitely worth a mention.
Yeah. Mourinho.
Well, I mean, Mourinho. Oh, yeah. I mean, Mourinho, definitely. There wouldn't be an underdog story in the Premier League at the moment without Mourinho.
Mm-hmm.
And not necessarily because Chelsea were an underdog, but he was an underdog. He was the Premier League underdog. Like, he came in, like, no one expected him to do too much, really. Like, I think they expected a few trophies, maybe, but not in the style he did it.
Yeah.
And he came in, just showed pure I know it's funny to say pure class, but pure confidence and class at that point, and then come back and do it again in what 10 years later, however many years later it was.
Yeah.
You got your Gerards, your Lampards, players
Lineker.
Lineker, Shearer, Alan Shearer.
Yeah.
Um,
So
God,
many you could throw in there.
we could be here all bloody day, and we're not going to because we've got to wrap it up soon. But we said you said don't go for the obvious one, but unfortunately, sometimes you just have to because there's no one. In my opinion, there's no one else you can put number one. And for me, it's got to be Fergie.
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course.
It's not even just down to his football. There's a guy who could play football. I think he could have won a trophy with any team in the world. And I think he knew how to adapt his style of play perfectly to whatever players he had. And the thing that's mad to us now, because all United we think of now is big stars, but not a team. But Fergie, Man United, not so many big stars. He kind of made them big stars, but they were such a unit. Every Fergie team, even when they were poor, they were unbelievable. Like the team spirit was unbelievable. He could spot talent from a mile away. And they were good. Sorry, I keep saying what you're going to say. They were going to be duds. Undoubtedly, every manager's going to have duds. Makeda, but look at some of these players that have come through a Man United youth system. Gary Neville, Paul Scholes. I know Giggsy came a bit through the Man City one, but you know what I mean. Ryan Giggs came through. Phil Neville, I said Gary. So many. Beckham, David Beckham again. Like we wouldn't have had Beckham without Fergie, and that's a guarantee.
Well, name a world-class player that Sir Alex Ferguson bought. That was world-class when he bought them.
Exactly.
He didn't buy world-class players. He bought players and made them world-class. Rooney, people go, Rooney? Rooney wasn't
Rooney was
world-class
17. You can't be world-class at 17.
Ronaldo wasn't world-class when he came. Van Nistelrooy.
He was like 4 when he came. Yeah, I completely agree. It's like we said, it was that summer where they were trying to find his replacement. It was weird. Even on BBC Sussex, they were talking about it. Why? I get why. It's just so. It was so. Like when you talk about your big events of that year, that was one of the biggest ones.
Yeah.
Like Fergie leaving Man United, because for everyone I went to school with, everyone 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years older than me, everyone 10 years younger than me, that's all we knew at Man United. It wasn't Louis van Gaal, it wasn't David Moyes, even though it had been touted for years and years that Moisey was going to take over. It was always a when, not an if, Moisey taking over.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone doubted it. It wasn't. Oh, mate, imagine 2003, 2004, Mourinho's just arrived saying 13, 14 years later he'll be Man United manager. They're Tottenham manager. It's mental. I still find it weird seeing him sit in the stands and he doesn't look any different. He looks so well. He looks so, for someone his age. And if you ask me who the best manager ever is, I would never hesitate to say Alex Ferguson.
No, you can't.
He just dominated. My dad always says because in the 2000s, we always said that every glory hunter supports Man United. It's just Man United. But then my dad always said, well, it never used to be Man United. Like back in my day, it was always Liverpool. Man United were just kind of there, but they didn't really do anything. Fergie changed that. Like Fergie made a legacy. There you go. He changed English football. Maybe the Man United wouldn't be in the position now. Maybe they would just be a 5th, 6th, 7th place team. Like they were always a big club, but they were always never a big club to this level. And he bought Champions Leagues, Premier Leagues, FA Cups, Club World Cups, everything under the sun.
Yeah, you name it, you won it.
Yeah, I could be here all day. It's like the Beckham thing. He didn't manage my team. He didn't even manage my country. He wasn't even from my country. He's from Scotland. But here I am saying he's the best manager ever.
Yeah, you can't argue. You cannot argue.
Again, I feel like I've just poured my heart out to you.
Oh, Alex. Oh, David. Oh dear,
Yeah,
don't clip
well,
that.
I've got to wrap it up because it's almost getting to 5:30, which is the prated Beckham o'clock.
Oh dear. But yeah, if anything about that, what legacies? I mean, we spoke about a lot. We spoke about
Actually,
again.
unsung heroes, Teddy Sheringham as well.
Yeah, you can't argue. Yeah, he's got to be in there. Andy Cole.
Even like former Burnley player. Even Peter Crouch, even tell me someone who doesn't like Peter Crouch.
True. What a guy at the moment.
Oh.
I love that advert.
If you tell me he's not the next person to host Match of the Day,
He has to be. It can't be Jermaine Genius, surely. Oh no.
please no,
Not
please.
Jermaine Genius. They can't do it with Jermaine Genius, but they got Peter Crouch sitting there waiting.
And obviously the one who left the biggest legacy ever, Ashley Barnes.
For being the first person to kiss someone on the nose.
Exactly. What other player has done that? I don't know. It's that question actually. Well, we didn't have a guest today, but we've got good news. You don't have to listen to just both of us next week. We have a special guest.
We do. Ooh.
How exciting. And unfortunately, he is a Tottenham fan.
Yeah.
But we can look past it.
Yeah, we got my mate Tom coming on next week, and he's going to talk all things, Tottenham, and also tell us about his moment that made him fell in love with football, and it is a good one. It is a good one. Tune in.
Yeah, but as always, stay safe, keep happy. We're getting there, and we're going to go and watch Rangers beat Slavia Prague tonight.
Come on!
Last night. Well done, Rangers, because you won last night.
Congratulations. Well done, Olympiacos.
Well done, Rangers. Yeah, everyone, we're supporting Olympiacos.